So I got this comment on my YouTube channel that I was going to address. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou came forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. Bottom line, God knew Jeremy before he was even formed. Key word there, you say it yourself, formed. What's the difference between being formed and a living creature? Is it a living creature when it's being formed? And notice that God forms humans in the womb, which means they are humans before they're born. I've never said they're not humans. I'm saying, when does it become a living creature to God? This is such a, it's a waste of time, but this is like, do you realize how important it is to God that we understood what life was? Because when you start toying with this, and that's what has happened, when you start toying with what God says life begins, then you can toy with what murder is. And that's what they've done. Most right-wing Christians believe that abortion is murder. So my question to anybody that is in that camp is, when there is a miscarriage, is it God that's murdering? Do you see God as the murderer? You wouldn't, right? You wouldn't call God a murderer, but you call anybody else because, they're not God. But what I'm saying is that what this world has done is they have minimized how important the breath of life to God was. That's what's sad. Am I saying that nobody should care about the pregnant? No, that's not what I'm saying. But literally the process in Genesis 2:7, word for word, is the process that takes place when that baby is born. That's how important it was to God. That's how miraculous and beautiful that moment is. That moment when the baby it has a first cry because it's not because it's anybody smacks it. No, it's because the concentration of oxygen hits its nostrils and it burns and it causes it to cry out, thereby expelling the fluid from the lungs, becoming a living creature. And what does Genesis 2:7 say? I will blow my breath into the nostrils, and it will become a living creature. Before then, you're the dust being formed. You are not a living creature. And in 1929, we had actually definitions that said the truth. And they don't even show this definition anymore because they've changed it so much. Life between birth and death. And what does it say above that? The union of soul and body. Why does it say that? Because it's at the moment that God blows the breath into the nostrils. At conception, they don't have nostrils. It's being formed. There's a difference between formed and a living creature. And it's only through these two only become united once God blows his breath. That was so important, and this world has minimized it. Because now every Christian believes that life begins at conception. That's how misled everyone's been. It doesn't mean I don't care about the baby in the womb. What I'm saying is that instead of looking what you want to find in the Bible about the baby in the womb, look up what life is to God. If he withdraws breath, you die. When he gives life, you live. And yet everything was created. Do you realize how important it was to him? That people knew that breath is when it all started? I don't think people can hear, though. I don't. That's how deceptive this world is. So what did the science do? Because they got rid of all this. Oh, because we're so much smarter now. Science comes along and all this. All about the organisms and growth, reproduction. Yeah, but so then we can get rid of what God says. Life begins. And yet it's his breath that's everything. And this world has managed to even minimize his breath. Sad. Yeah, all of these things, Psalm 139, everything in here. Yeah, it's a substance. It's a form. It never in any of these verses does it say it's alive. It doesn't say it's alive yet. Does God know you? Yes, he does. When a couple, that a newly married couple is talking about having a baby and they're thinking about it and conceiving it in their mind, does that mean it's a life then? No, right? Because if you want to see this as, because you say, bottom line, this is clear proof that God knows every baby before they're even formed, then we need to separate all the dust in the world, right? Because we might be interfering with life. That's what, I mean, is that what you're saying? Because you believe that the dust of the earth is a living creature. Then you went on to say you can't claim these men were special exceptions. No, a couple of them were. When God doesn't sanctify everybody before they're born. Sanctification usually comes after being born again. They were special exceptions. That said, I'm not saying that God doesn't know everybody before they're born. I'm just saying with those particular men, sanctification he did beforehand. He already sanctified them. In this life, you have to be born again once born to be sanctified. Sanctified is a lifelong process. Job 34:14. If he should set his heart to it and gather to himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh would perish together and man would return to the dust. Psalm 104, when you hide your face, they are dismayed. When you take away their breath, they die and return to the dust. He makes it clear over and over and over again that if I give the breath, it becomes a living creature. If I withdraw the breath, they are not a living creature. Over and over and over again. So that's what the question is. I'm not arguing about whether it's human or not. What I'm trying to say is people are being deceived by this. Because when you start playing around with this area of when life begins, then what is murder to you? Well, we have had a far-right radical Christians that have run around the country and have called people that saying abortion is murder. Yet God would not see it as murder because you have to be a living, breathing creature. He says it over and over again in his word. But that's how deceptive this world is. And in me even saying this, then everybody just wants to be like, oh, you want late-term abortion? It has nothing to do with that. Anybody that has a conscience doesn't want late-term abortion or any of that. All I'm trying to redirect people's focus to is either you want to follow what God says or you don't. And when he knows you and when he's forming you and when he's blown breath of life into you and you become a living creature are two different things. So if you want to say that life begins at conception, then you're disregarding the beauty of when God sees that life begins because it's with his breath. And given that everything around us he created with his breath, it clearly was that important to him. But this wicked world, of course, they'd want to get you focused on, oh no, life begins at conception. It's a total trap. The Spirit of God has made me. Okay, made me. Not alive yet, made me, formed me. Knows my substance, knows me before I'm born, but not alive yet. And the breath of the Almighty gives me life. It's that simple. Those are two different things, just like in Genesis 2:7. Two different things. One is forming you, one is knowing you. You're the dust of the earth. I'm starting to create you, but you are not a living creature until God gives the breath. And literally that process down to the exact way God said it in 2:7 is what literally happens when a baby is born. And what did this world do? Wanted to minimize that amazing moment because now we're going to change the dictionary and get rid of what it said in 1929 because science comes along and says we know better in the cells and all of that, even though it can't breathe. And then everybody says, but it'll go on to be a human. There's miscarriages. So please answer me then. If God doesn't want murder, then do you think he's the murderer with a miscarriage?